What's up? It's Dr. William James. Today I want to address the whole Amanda Seales, Myron Rolle situation. Amanda Seales, she's comedian, poet, actress. Myron Rolle, he's an ex-professional NFL athlete turned neurosurgeon. So the thing that happened is, um, Amanda Seales has put up these, you know, allegations about Myron Rolle having inappropriate behavior, predatory behavior, sexual harassment behavior with women. Um, he didn't do it to her, but she had an interaction with him, which led her to find this out from other women. So she felt that she should put this out, even though she has no proof. So this is the problem that we're facing here. This is extremely detrimental. This is her behavior is problematic. She doesn't really see that, but I followed it. I went to her podcast. I listened to the podcast where she spoke about her situation with Myron Rolle, even though she didn't say his name. Listened to the Breakfast Club interview where she addressed her interactions with Myron Rolle, even though she didn't say his name. I listened to her little short video where she said his name, and then I also listened to Van Lathan's podcast where she had a discussion with Robert Littell about his article that he printed with his headline that was incorrect. So I'm pretty much caught up to speed with this whole situation, and it's very, very sad and it's detrimental on her part for what she's doing. For her to put these allegations out there without any proof is just terrible. You know, anyone can say anything about anyone. Anyone could tell any type of lies. For one, she doesn't know these women at all. She doesn't know where they're at intellectually. She doesn't know where they're at psychologically. And just because, you know, some women are truthful, there are women who also lie, and they lie for different reasons. So for you to put something out there like this with someone who is doing something like, you know, trying to be a neurosurgeon, that makes no sense. It really doesn't make sense for any profession. But for someone to be trying to do something that is so difficult and so accomplished and would help so many, why put this out there without any proof? You know, she's saying, oh, she felt like, you know, it's her duty to do such a thing with the number of women who came forth with these allegations. So she has to do this to caution women when dealing with Myron Rolle. If you have no proof that he's committed a crime, if you have no proof that he's even done anything, how are you going to caution women? How are you going to do something like this in such a field? That you're like, if she has this whole smear campaign and she doesn't really see how it's a smear campaign. She doesn't see the problem with it. That makes no sense. I could put out allegations right now about Amanda Seales saying that she's done all of these things. And, you know, I have 40 men who said that she's had problematic behavior with them and she's not being okay with men and she's not being okay with people in general. She's sexually harassed people. She's done this with no proof. Well, you know, I don't have any proof, but just to caution you, she's going around exposing herself to people without permission, and she's doing all of these type of things. You know, she's hitting people over the head, doing all. I could say anything, but I don't have any proof. You know, this one person told me that, and they didn't want to press charges against her. But you know, that's the case. You know, I don't have any proof, but this is what she's doing, just to caution you. And what type of sense would that make? Like, how would you feel? So I'm going to try to, you know, go back through this, and I'm going to try to do it in, you know, chronological order. So first, she was talking on her podcast, Small Doses. Now, another thing, this could be for attention. So if you go to her podcast, Small Doses, and she's trying to get her, you know, views up and all of that on Spotify and all of this, whatever. You don't have to click on all of the different segments. It's the one where it's Small Doses Side Effects of a Crush. Now, she discusses her interaction with him. She speaks about how she was, you know, she had a crush on him. She wanted him to jump in her DM. He finally jumps in her DM. So, she's having this discussion with him in the DM, and R. Kelly comes up. So as R. Kelly comes up, she asks him like, "Have you seen, the R. Kelly documentary?" And he's like, "No." She's like, "I think you should watch it." He's like, "It's my day off. Um, I could watch the documentary, or I could take your number and get to know you better." Stop right there, because she calls him a prick. She says, "Oh, like it's clear he's a prick for saying that." Stop right there. He's he's in the finishing stages of being a neurosurgeon. Um, so we know that that's not an easy task. Like, I'm a doctor, but I'm a doctor in educational leadership. But we know, you know, doing that type of scholarly work, especially, is different when you're, trying to be a medical doctor. So this is his day off. He asks her like, "Yo, should I watch the docuseries? It's my day off, or should I, get on the phone and get to know you better? Time is valuable." How does that make him a prick? But anyway, we keep going. She calls him a prick for that. So anyway, they get on the phone and they're talking. And she doesn't give any context to their discussion. But she says that he shares a story with her about being in boarding school when he was a teenager. And now she shared a story with him, but she doesn't tell us what her story was, which is very important. We need context. But she's saying his story was inappropriate. He tells this story about, it was inappropriate for a first conversation. He tells this story about how when he was in boarding school, when he was a teenager, mind you, he's 34 years old now. He was a teenager, and he used to sneak, females up the fire escape to his room or whatever. And he and his friends used to, once he found out he could sneak women up the fire escape, he used to charge his friends to sneak females up the fire escape. And they would judge how much, they would decide how much the friends would pay based on how the women looked. They would rate them, like on a scale of 100, and then decide, like, how much they're going to pay. Mind you, he's telling the story. We don't know how the discussion is going. We don't know what type of dialogue they're having. We don't know what type of story she shared. He probably thought, that's a cool story, a funny story from when he was a teen. Just looking back, no big deal. I was a teenager. Yo, this is something I did in boarding school. I found out I could sneak females up the fire escape. I snuck them up to my room. This is what we did. He could be telling her that story as a sign of his growth. Like, yo, look at what I was when I was an immature teen. Now look at what I've become. It could be one of those type of things. Flashback Friday, Throwback Thursday, whatever. Look at me now. I'm nothing like that. I'm a mature, grown man who, would never do something like that now. And I'm a neurosurgeon, trying to change the world, trying to do things, help people. So she took it and ran with it, tried to make him look like a prick for telling that story. Which you clearly see how that comes down to perception. So she goes along, and after she mentions it on her podcast, she goes on the Breakfast Club. After the Breakfast Club, she claims all of these women who have come forth, and she hasn't put out, extensive amount of information about him. But she told us on the Breakfast Club that she contacted her homegirl to sort of background check him, like to get some information on him, like to make sure, he's not married, don't got no kids on the side, which, people can do. You're talking to someone, you want to find out if, anyone knows anything about them. You do a little, you do a little diving, a little digging. So she does this, and she asks her homegirl, and she claims her homegirl knew someone who used to talk with him. They dealt with him, and the friend called him an asshole. She said she wanted more tea. The friend gave her details of, I went to his hotel room and he answered the door naked. So stop right there. Um, After that, she claims she didn't put out that much information about him. Based on her podcast and based on her Breakfast Club interview, this is what I know. And a little bit of information from what she shared on Instagram. On her Instagram, you know, um, I think I saw the video on her Instagram where she said, like, I only deal with black men. That, then the podcast and the Breakfast Club. So I would then know he's a black man, he's 34, he's in Boston, he's a scholar, a Rhodes Scholar, um, he's in Scrubs, he went to boarding school. That's what I would know based on what she's told me. Now, if I'm someone who has dealt with this person on a one-on-one basis, that's all information I can utilize and I would be able to put together. Oh, she's talking about Myron. Like, it wouldn't be hard to put that together. Additionally, she said she asked a friend about him and someone else. Is it possible that these people could have started running their mouth? Like, oh, Amanda's asking about Myron Rolle. She talks to Myron Rolle. Yes, that's a possibility. So then other people could have known this, and they could have known who you were talking about without saying his name based on all the other clues that you gave them. It's not that hard. Because that's the big deal she was saying. Like, oh, without even putting it out there, without even putting his name out there or that much information about him, it's troublesome to me that, people knew who I was talking about. You put enough information out there for people to know who you were talking about. Like, come on, let's be serious. You put enough information out there. But to make matters worse, she says, oh, I felt, once these people came forth, I had a duty to share this information because that's what I do. You put this information out there without any facts, and she thinks it's okay because she said she had no proof. It's not okay just because you admitted that you have no proof. It just points to utter stupidity as to having no proof and then putting out such allegations about a person. You don't know these women. You don't know where they're at psychologically. You don't know where they're at intellectually. You don't know if they have something personal against him to make up lies. And don't act like that's far-fetched for someone to make up a lie just to get back at someone. It's really not. So it's really annoying that she's doing this, and she says a lot of things that's problematic. Um, and a lot of people have accused her of like having a vendetta, like against black men, and she's aware of it because she's addressed it before. But this seems like an all-out attack on him, and I think it's because her pride is hurt. She talks about wanting this to manifest and wanting this person to dive in her DMs. That's another thing. The person would know that this is not your average Joe Schmo. You knew of this person for 2 years and you wanted them to dive in your DM. This is someone you know of. She only has about 1,400 people she's following on her Instagram. A large portion of the people have blue checks. So they're people of some status where they're known, some type of celebrity status. So putting all of that together, you could know she was talking about Myron Rolle. But additionally, back to her pride being hurt. She wanted this person to dive in her DM. He dives in her DM. He's not showing her the interest that she would like. She even spoke about, him being pressed to see her. He wanted to see her. So she's getting this vibe. I don't know what went on in the discussion, but she's getting this vibe from him that he just wants to smash. He's like, oh, when you coming out to Boston? She's like, oh, I'll be out there, such and such date. He's like, nah, I want to see you before that. First of all, that's no big deal that a guy wants to see you. If, he wants to see you sooner, he could be really liking you. You could really like someone and want to see him. You could have ulterior motives and really want to see him. You don't know until you see the person and you see how it goes. But she tried to make that a big deal. So he really wants to see her. She's not feeling it. He didn't offer to fly her out, to pay for her flight to come see him. She wasn't feeling that. She didn't like that he was talking to someone else, and may or may not be true. But the person said whatever they said. But he ignored her text. It seems like the harassment was coming from her. She said, "Oh, I ended things by texting him." Once she found out, she claimed she allegedly found out that he exposed himself to someone who knocked on his hotel door. This woman who was coming to see him. She was like, "Oh, small world." She admitted that he ignored her text for 2 days. Now, when someone ignores your text, you leave it at that. Why does she feel the need to immaturely go and send him another message with an accusation? You look crazy. You sound crazy. She's like, "Oh yeah, and I messaged him. He ignored me, and I messaged him. Um, Let me tell you this." So her tone is like, like you're talking down to him with an accusation, like very condescending. Like, "Let me tell you this." Her tone is off. He didn't want you to text him. Like, he ignored you. Just because he didn't hit block and your text went through. I don't know. Maybe you were blocked. Uh, Whatever the case. But she sent him this text, and she's like, "Oh, you could be a Rhodes Scholar. You could, you know, basically implying to him being a neurosurgeon. You could be a neurosurgeon, whatever. You could have all these scrubs, but when you're, exposing yourself to women who knock on your hotel room door, you're no better than the guy on the 2 train to Harlem jacking off. Those are not the same thing. That's a false equivalency. Now, I wouldn't open the door naked if I know a woman's coming to pick me up, but that's me. Different individuals, people, different cultures into exhibition, nudists. Um, some, they sleep in the nude. And, she even said that he said he was sleeping and, he just answered the door, no big deal to him. That's not the same thing. For one, that's in a private space. If I'm in my private hotel room or I'm at my home and someone knocks on my door and I answer the door in the nude, you now have a choice whether you want to enter or you want to leave. If you're already in my home and then I just disrobe in front of you, do certain things, that's a bit different. But if you go to the police and you say, I want to file like these sexual harassment charges because, I went to this guy's hotel room and he answered the door nude, they're going to say, well, did he come to your hotel room or they're going to start asking questions. Now, I'm not saying that part is okay. That's a different discussion. But there's real sexual harassment. There's really people who are being touched. Certain things are said to them that are really wrong. There's people just flat out, exposing themselves at work and in private places and all types of things being done that are, really wild and inappropriate and really sexual misconduct and sexual harassment. You're not providing any context as to the discussion that this woman had with this man. You're not saying her name. We have no proof as to whether or not that is true, and we don't know anything surrounding it. You're telling us that she said he was an asshole and she didn't like it. But we have no proof that this happened. We have no proof of this person. And we have no proof of what they said that could have probably caused a misconception. So I think, she needs to check herself. Don't put out accusations. Don't put out information like this without proof. That's ridiculous. Anyone can make up any type of statement. Anyone can say anything. We need proof. You putting this out here can destroy a man's career. And you need proof to do something like that. You shouldn't be coming out with these type of statements without proof. Bottom line. You have a duty to make sure that these women are telling the truth before you share this. Just because you got curved, just because your discussion didn't go how you would like, you yourself can't say he did this to you. So why are you just sharing anyone's story? If 12 random women came to you and they made up, they said, John Doe was doing this with us, would you put that out there about this person? So, there's a threat to the validity in your stories because you had a personal interaction with him, and you have a personal agenda against him. So I really think Amanda Seales needs to take this into consideration. I just wanted to get this out there. He responded to her. I have no reason not to believe him based on everything she said. He said, and based on everything she said, I have no reason not to believe him. He said that she's mad because I didn't want to, I ignored her advances. She admitted he ignored her. When you text someone, small world, he was done with her. She texted him small world, 2 days went by. And then she sent him another text message. You know, I guess she claimed that was her warning him because she was like, yeah, I warned him that people were saying these things about him. In the text message where you said, don't, answer your door nude, stop the predatory behavior, that was your warning with an accusation? You gotta be kidding me. You gotta be kidding me. So you need to stop it. You need to chill out and stop playing games. We need to be addressing the real criminals. We need to be addressing the real pigs, the real men out here who don't know how to, treat women and how to behave and do things in the right way. Not making up things based off our personal agenda and being mad and having a vendetta against someone based on how they interacted with them. So that's just all I have to say. Y'all can let me know what y'all think in the comments. Like, share the video because this is something that needs to be talked about. Peace.